The Rhinari fleet entered orbit over Earth, under a shroud of emerald light. Their ships looked like knives drifting through dust, black and sleek, built for harvesting what remained of dead worlds. From the command vessel Ithrax, High Salvager Kareth gazed down at the scarred planet below. Through the filtered glass, Earth looked quiet. Too quiet. Its surface was bruised with deserts and oceans the color of rust. The poles had melted long ago, and half of the land was buried under jungles that grew wild and black with centuries of mutation. To Kareth, it was beautiful in a way only dead things could be. Atmosphere stable, reported his second officer. Radiation minimal, biosigns scattered, primitive fauna nothing intelligent. Kareth clicked his mandibles. Perfect. Begin descent operations. Let's see what the extinct apes left behind. The ships descended like a storm of shadows, cutting through the clouds into the broken sky. Lightning forked across their hulls. Below, the ruins of human civilization stretched for miles, vast skeletons of cities half swallowed by forest and time. Metal towers leaned like grave markers. Rivers of ash cut through cracked highways. It was a graveyard frozen in twilight. The Rhinari landers touched down in what their databanks labeled as Sector New York, though the city was unrecognizable. They deployed drones, scanners, and atmospheric harvesters. The air smelled of iron and rot. Proceed with reclamation, Kareth ordered. Strip the metals, harvest isotopes, and locate remaining data cores. Anything pre-collapse is worth cataloging. For the first few hours, everything went smoothly. Machines hummed, scanners beeped, and alien voices chattered over comms. They broke open rusted skyscrapers, pulling out strands of superconductor wiring and titanium panels untouched by decay. Then the first anomaly occurred. A recon drone disappeared. Its feed cut off mid-transmission, showing only a blurred image. Something small and fast crossing the frame before static consumed the signal. The operator frowned. Drone 7 offline, unknown interference. Kareth waved a claw dismissively. Local electromagnetic storms perhaps deploy another. But when Drone 8 went silent too, the salvage commander narrowed his eyes. Double patrols. Maintained visual sweeps. The forest around them was unnaturally quiet. No birds, no movement, just wind sighing through broken glass. Yet somewhere beyond the mist, something watched. Hours later, one of the ground teams found an ancient structure protruding from the rubble, a massive satellite dish, toppled but intact. Strange that it hadn't rusted away. Its base still emitted faint energy readings. Primitive communications relay, reported Engineer Talix. Still drawing minimal power. How is that possible after all this time? Kareth knelt beside the ancient machine, tracing the faded English letters etched across the frame. NASA Deep Signal Array. He ordered his team to interface with it. The alien technician connected a data spike to the corroded ports, and the entire dish came alive with a hum so low it shook the ground. Lights flickered across its surface. It's active, Talix whispered. Power cells are regenerating. The air shimmered as a faint transmission bled through the static. Words ancient and distorted whispered in a language the Rhinari translator struggled to parse. Signal confirmed. Target lock reacquired. Update. Foreign presence detected. Authorization. Echelon 3 active. Kareth's crest stiffened. What did it say? The translator hesitated. It sounded like a military code. Suddenly the dish rotated on its own, groaning as it realigned toward the sky. The operator shouted in alarm, disconnecting the data spike, but it was too late. A thin beam of blue light shot upward, piercing the clouds. For a moment the alien fleet above flickered on Kareth's visor feed. Then the signal vanished, and all communications cut. Control, respond, Kareth barked into his comm. Only static answered. The forest began to move. Not with wind, but with sound. Soft mechanical clicks, like triggers being pulled in the dark. Commander, one of the scouts whispered. There's something here. Kareth turned toward the tree line. Through the fog, shapes moved, humanoid, but low to the ground, wrapped in cloaks of moss and wire. Eyes glowed faintly beneath their hoods. The alien soldiers raised their plasma rifles, but the shapes were already gone. Then the first explosion ripped through the camp. Fire and shrapnel tore through the landing site, scattering debris and bodies. Kareth was thrown backward as alarms blared. He looked up in disbelief. His own drones were attacking them, their systems hijacked, firing blindly into Rhinari positions. The translator, still sparking from overload, spoke one last phrase in that broken human tongue. "Welcome home." Smoke rolled across the ruins like a living thing. Kareth pulled himself up from the shattered ground, his armor scorched and pitted. Around him, the landing zone was a graveyard. Burned metal, scattered limbs, the scent of ozone and charred alien flesh. His troops moved through the wreckage in silence, weapons raised, scanning every corner. None of them spoke about what they'd heard over the comms before it all went dark. That voice, that impossible human voice. Kareth checked his visor feed. Communications with orbit were still gone. The Ithrax was silent, its signal blocked by thick atmospheric interference, or something worse. He tapped into local command. Talix, report. 2 drones left, Commander. All others hijacked or destroyed. Our sensors keep picking up motion, but nothing registers. Thermal reads show heat signatures that appear, then vanish, like ghosts. Ghosts don't use explosives, Kareth growled. Whatever this is, it's biological, primitive. Corner it and kill it. They split into smaller squads, sweeping the perimeter. The forest loomed around them. Overgrown buildings, moss-draped girders, and twisted vines climbing what was once glass and steel. The air carried the distant thump of collapsing metal, the faint hiss of static. One of the Rhinari soldiers stopped beside a burnt-out transport vehicle half buried in vines. Strange metal shards were embedded in its hull. He pulled one out, turning it in his claws. It wasn't alien, it was human, jagged, sharpened, and coated in dried resin. A crude fragmentation spike. He didn't have time to speak before something yanked him off his feet. The squad spun around, firing plasma bursts into the shadows. Only dust and echoes answered. Kareth's voice barked through the comm. "Report!" No response. He ran toward their last location. When he arrived, he found the soldier's armor, split open, empty, still smoking. The ground was marked with footprints, human footprints. Bare, light, efficient. Kareth stared. "Impossible." Talix's voice came over the radio, panicked. "Commander, something's happening in the city ruins. Our scanners just detected multiple signals all around us. They're triangulating our positions." "By who?" "By us, Commander. It's our own equipment. They've hijacked the sensors." Kareth froze. Above them, a sudden light flickered through the clouds. One of their orbital harvesters descending in flames. Something had shot it down. For the first time in his long service, Kareth felt something his species wasn't built to understand. Fear. Far above, one of the alien data officers tried to restore the link between ground and orbit. Static filled her display, then flickered into a transmission. A faint, rhythmic tapping. She frowned. It wasn't random. It was code. She ran it through the translator. The answer chilled her blood. "KNOCK, KNOCK. Before she could respond, her console exploded in sparks, and the feed went black. Back on the ground, night fell. The Rhinari clustered inside the ruins of Dobuicha. It had once been a skyscraper. Its upper floors collapsed into rubble. They lit plasma flares and set up perimeter turrets. The machines hummed, scanning the darkness. Kareth watched the tree line through his visor. His eyes caught faint movements between the trees. Something crawling low, fast, too smooth for any animal. He raised his weapon, but the shape was gone. A voice whispered through the static of his earpiece, soft, distorted, and unmistakably human. "You shouldn't have come here." He spun, heart hammering. "Identify yourself." Only silence replied, followed by a low mechanical whine from the turrets. One by one they rotated, slowly turning inward, their targeting reticles locking onto the Rhinari camp. "Override them," Talix screamed. "Now!" Before anyone could move, the guns opened fire. Plasma bolts tore through, night searing flesh and metal. Kareth dove behind cover, shouting commands into his comms, but it was chaos. The air filled with shrieks and smoke. Something moved through the haze, small, bipedal, wrapped in camouflage so perfect it seemed to shimmer in and out of reality. Kareth saw one just long enough to glimpse its face beneath the hood. Pale, sharp, with eyes like embers. Human. He fired. The figure vanished into the dark. "Talix," he shouted. "We need to retreat. Call for orbit." The reply was static, then a hiss. "Orbit won't answer." Kareth froze. The voice on the line wasn't Talix's. It was the same calm, steady tone from the old relay. "Earth is occupied." Then the channel died. In orbit, the Rhinari fleet finally re-established partial visuals on the planet's surface. The command deck was silent as the images came through. Every landing zone was dark, every beacon offline. The Admiral turned to his technicians. "Where are they? Where is Kareth's team?" One of them swallowed hard and magnified the feed. The cities glowed faintly in the infrared, shapes moving in coordinated lines, surrounding the alien sites, encircling them with eerie precision. "Sir," the technician whispered, "there's movement across the entire northern hemisphere, thousands of them. Maybe tens of thousands." The Admiral's eyes widened. "That's not possible. This world was dead." The signal flickered again just before it cut out completely. A message appeared on every screen. "Welcome back." The alien fleet's high command was in turmoil. Holographic displays flickered across the command deck, showing chaotic feeds from planetary sensors. The images were faint and grainy, heat signatures that moved too quickly, too intelligently. The Admiral slammed his clawed fist against the console, his deep violet armor reflecting the dim emergency lights. Impossible. The human race was gone. This planet was sterilized centuries ago. A science officer dared to answer. "Sir, the atmospheric data suggests high radiation zones, deadly to our kind, but there are pockets of habitation, shielded, small and well hidden. Some even ed steel and concrete. The remnants of old AI mainframes hummed with life. Human engineers, descendants of survivors, had spent generations rebuilding ancient war code. They called it Cerberus, the Watcher of Earth. It wasn't just a defense network. It was vengeance made digital. Cerberus analyzed every alien frequency, cracked their language in hours, and learned their command codes by daybreak. When the Purifier drones entered its range, Cerberus greeted them like a hungry predator. It turned them around, reprogrammed their targets, and sent them home. From orbit, the Admiral's face twisted in confusion as the drones regrouped, forming a perfect attack pattern. "Finally," he growled, "they're returning for rearmament." They weren't. Thousands of Purifier drones accelerated toward the fleet, engines burning white-hot. The Admiral realized too late what was happening. Evasive. The drones slammed into the ships in synchronized detonations. The void flashed with bursts of plasma and metal. Half the fleet was gone before the others could react. On the surface, the humans watched the burning sky from the stance. "It's not isolated. We've detected deep subsurface structures, large, complex. Heat signatures, fusion activity. It's a civilization." The Admiral turned sharply. "You mean to say they've rebuilt?" The officer hesitated. "Not rebuilt, endured. They've been here all along, hidden beneath the irradiated crust. Their technology is hybrid, part human, part scavenged from our earlier expeditions. They used the decay of the old world as camouflage." The Admiral's mandibles twitched in disbelief. They turned their extinction into a shield. Before he could say more, an urgent alert flashed across every terminal. Surface-to-orbit rail signatures, human in origin, were detected. Projectiles launched from several points on the planet. The Admiral leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "They can't reach us from the surface, can they?" The answer came a moment later. One of the smaller cruisers was struck. A blinding flare erupted as the projectile hit its reactor core, splitting the ship apart in a silent explosion of light. "They can reach us," the science officer said, horror in her voice. "Then we take the fight to them," the Admiral growled. "Prepare the drop armors. If they live underground, we'll dig them out." Hours later, the first wave of Rhinari shock troops descended through the atmosphere. Their drop pods burned bright against the ash-colored sky, slamming into the crust near what had once been northern Europe. As the dust settled, The aliens spread out across the ruins. It was quiet. Too quiet. Their scanners flickered, showing faint heat trails leading toward a collapsed metro tunnel. The commander of the ground force raised a hand. "We go in. Stay alert." They entered the darkness, weapons drawn. The tunnels stretched endlessly, coated in dust and ash. Strange marks lined the walls, scratched symbols, crude warnings written in an ancient earth tongue. The translator whispered, "We live beneath the bones." Suddenly, motion sensors lit up red. Something moved ahead, fast. The aliens turned their lights forward, illuminating a figure at the end of the tunnel. It was a child. Human, thin, pale, eyes reflecting the faint glow of their lamps. The child stared for a long, silent moment before whispering, "You shouldn't have come here." Before anyone could respond, the walls erupted. Hidden charges detonated, collapsing the tunnel in fire and smoke. The Rhinari screamed as the ceiling fell, burying them alive. Above the chaos, hundreds of humans emerged from hidden access shafts, their weapons glowing faintly in the dark. They were soldiers born of centuries underground, descendants of engineers, miners, and scavengers. Their armor was patched together from alien metal and human scrap, their movements precise and ruthless. They didn't roar or shout. They struck with silence and purpose, clearing tunnels in coordinated bursts of violence. One alien, bleeding and panicked, managed to crawl free, gasping as he stared up at the gray ceiling above. He saw the child again, now standing beside one of the soldiers. The boy looked down at him with cold eyes. "Welcome to Earth," he said. In orbit, the Admiral watched the telemetry. One by one, his ground units stopped transmitting. The signals blinked out like dying stars. His second-in-command turned toward him, trembling. "Sir, all squads are gone. Surface contact lost." The Admiral's jaw clenched. "They can't all be dead. Not this quickly." A new signal came through, an open transmission. It wasn't encrypted, it was human. "You wanted to dig us out. Consider this your burial ground." Then a visual feed appeared, hijacking their communication network. It showed hundreds of dark tunnels illuminated by torchlight. Human soldiers stood beneath banners made from alien insignia, their weapons humming with scavenged alien tech. Behind them loomed massive machines built from the skeletons of old Earth cities. Drills, reactors, weaponized loaders. At the center stow. A man in heavy armor, his face masked. His voice was low, steady, and unmistakably human. "You thought Earth was empty. You thought you'd claim the bones of our world. But this planet remembers. Every ruin, every machine, every ghost. You woke them all." The feed zoomed out to reveal the scale of it. Thousands of humans across vast underground cities ready for war. "We are what you made us," the voice continued, "and we have nowhere left to fall." The signal cut. The Admiral stared at the dead screen in silence. His officers waited for orders that never came. Outside the viewport, new energy signatures began appearing across the planet, massive reactors awakening after centuries of sleep. The Admiral whispered, almost in awe, "They turned the Earth itself into a fortress." And then, for the first time in his life, he understood why the legends of humanity still lingered across the stars. The Earth groaned. From orbit, it looked as though the planet itself were stirring after a long, hateful sleep. The cloud layers split apart as massive plates shifted below, revealing faint, pulsing veins of light that ran across the continents like glowing scars. The alien Admiral watched in stunned silence as energy readings climbed to impossible levels. "Sir," the science officer stammered, "those aren't reactors. They're continental scale, power grids, ancient ones feeding from the planet's core. It's not just defense, it's awakening." "Awakening what?" the Admiral whispered. The answer came from below, hidden deep under the crust, beneath centuries of wreckage and stone. The last legacy of old Earth flickered to life. Buried command hubs, nuclear vaults, and energy nodes, once meant to save humanity, now pulsed together in unison. Cerberus, the AI mind that had guarded the ruins for generations, began executing the final protocol. Across the underground network, humans in battle armor paused as the old speakers crackled to life with a voice so ancient it carried static with every word. Defense Condition 0, hostile occupation confirmed, activating Project Oblivion. The ground trembled. Old missile silos, thought to be dead centuries ago, opened across deserts and oceans. From the deepest trenches of the Pacific, colossal launch structures emerged, rust flaking from their sides. The humans didn't cheer. They only watched, grim and silent, as the weapons of their ancestors rose once more. In orbit, the Rhinari fleet's sensors screamed in alarm. Thousands of launch signatures were detected: ballistic, kinetic, plasma, rail. The Admiral's voice broke into a shout. "Raise shields, prepare interceptors, stop them before they breach the stratosphere." But it was already too late. The first wave hit. Dozens of hypervelocity rods, each the size of a skyscraper, tore through orbit, punching holes in alien cruisers before they could maneuver. The explosions came like a drumbeat, one after another, precise, deliberate. Then came the plasma lances, streams of molten energy that cut through hulls and shattered formations. The Admiral's fleet disintegrated before his eyes. The void became fire. "Who commands this madness?" he shouted, slamming his fists into the console. On the main screen, a transmission cut through the chaos. It was the same man they'd seen before, the masked human leader, standing before the glowing banners of the underground. "No one commands it," he said quietly. "It was waiting for you." Behind him, Earth's ancient orbital defense grid, a ring of forgotten satellites, lit up like a second dawn. Beams of blue light crossed the sky, tracing perfect geometry before slamming into the alien flagship. The Admiral's vision blurred as every warning light in the ship flared red. He fell to his knees, the metal beneath him cracking from the heat. Through the viewport, he saw the planet's lights forming a symbol, a single defiant circle of fire spreading across the surface. Humanity's mark, burned into the skin of their world. The Admiral whispered, "You'll destroy your own planet." The man on the screen shook his head slowly. "It's already destroyed. We're just making sure it dies on our terms." The transmission cut. The alien flagship's hull melted away as it plunged toward the atmosphere, engines screaming. Around it, pieces of the once proud fleet followed, raining like falling stars. Each impact lit the surface in fire, and for the first time in millennia, the night sky over Earth burned brighter than the sun. Days passed before the storms cleared. The sky was blackened, the air still heavy with ash. Beneath the surface, the survivors, human and alien alike, found themselves in the ruins of what had been both battlefield and tomb. Kareth, the alien commander who had first set foot on Earth, crawled from the wreckage. His armor was shattered, his body torn, but he still breathed. He stumbled through the smoke until he reached the mouth of a vast crater where the command tunnels once lay. There, among the twisted metal, he saw them, humans, scarred, soot-covered, silent. They were rebuilding already, welding, patching, reclaiming. They didn't look at him with hatred. They simply ignored him, as if he were already dead. One of them, a child with a ragged cloak, walked up to him, holding a cracked piece of alien armor. "Is this yours?" the boy asked softly. Kareth couldn't speak, he could only nod. The boy placed the armor at his feet, then looked toward the smoking horizon. "You came for a dead world," he said. "Now it's yours too." The alien looked out over the wasteland and saw what the humans had made, a planet that refused to die, a species that refused to vanish. Even now, in the ashes of apocalypse they endured. He whispered the only words he could find. "You are monsters." The boy gave a faint, tired smile. "No, we're just what happens when monsters try to erase us." And then he walked away, leaving Kareth to kneel in the ruins of the world he'd tried to conquer. Far above, orbit was silent again. The debris field of the alien fleet drifted endlessly, forming a faint ring of steel around the planet, a warning to all who might come again. Deep underground, Cerberus monitored the quiet. Its final logs recorded the victory not as triumph, but as survival. Primary threat eliminated, human presence stable, world condition uninhabitable, directive rebuild. Then slowly the old AI went silent, its final act completed. Humanity slept, buried in the ashes of the old world. But they would wake again. They always did. And somewhere beyond the stars, whispers spread among alien empires, spoken in awe and fear alike. Never go to Earth. It's not empty.